the features and the skill sets of some of the tools that are being developed across information technology are evolving every day. So anytime I speak to anyone, whether it be someone in technology or just in corporate America, or even they have children, I try to tell them that it's important that they take AI into consideration. What does AI mean for your profession? Will your job be impacted by artificial intelligence? Will your role still be needed? Parents that are sending their kids to college, think about AI and how to utilize AI along with their major. Everyone is going to be impacted in one way, shape, or form.
Hi, welcome to another episode of Two Lit Chicks. And so today we are going to be introducing to you a new guest. My name is, of course, Dr. Alicia, and I have my co-host.
Hey, I'm Fern here for another wonderful episode.
And our guest today, her name is Tina DeRay. And so she is a cybersecurity governance, risk, and compliance manager with over 25 years in the IT field. I am so excited to bring this conversation to the audience today because of the fact that I have not disclosed to this audience, but I'm going to disclose today as to how I met Tina through my journey of breast cancer. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer in August of 2024, and through a mutual acquaintance, someone introduced me to Tina, and Tina called me out of the blue and really was very instrumental on my healing process of breast cancer, as well as this month, we are recording in October, is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So I think this is a great opportunity to really talk about this topic. But what is so instrumental, even with this journey, when things settled down, and Tina, of course, was still sending me beautiful texts and we were still staying connected, I found out that she was in the IT industry. And so we have so much in common. I'm so delighted to bring her to the audience today. We're gonna do a deep dive into her career, but we're also going to talk about her breast cancer journey, as well as giving you tips and talk about how how to bring awareness and how not to be a part of this new clique that we're in, the breast cancer survivor clique. We want to make sure that we are bringing some level of awareness to this very important topic for women. And so let's go ahead and get started. Tina, please introduce yourself to the audience.
I am Tina DeRay. I am a native of Marshall, Texas. I've been in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex for a plethora of years. If I divulge that, I'll tell you how old I am, but a number of years. I worked in the IT space. I did the Big Four consulting, made my rounds with Accenture, Deloitte, IBM, did some strategic consulting with Gartner, worked internationally, implementing ERP systems and proprietary systems all around the world. So it is a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being with us. It's so great that you've had such a vast career in so many different organizations.
Yeah, that's when job hopping wasn't cool. My dad never understood.
No.
So, Tina, what inspired you to pursue a career in cybersecurity, and especially in, I'm going to call it GRC?
I've been in IT so long, and I've done probably every role from inception to completion for rolling out systems, whether they were large scale or just smaller systems, and working with state and local governments. I recognize that one thing I didn't have was experience in cybersecurity. So I wanted to continue to expand my skill set. A long time ago, I read this book. Most people have heard of it, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And in it, his line, one thing that I've remembered very well is learn a little about a lot. So that's been my whole mantra throughout my career, to learn as much as I can about as much as I can. So an opportunity presented itself with cyber, and started working with one of the directors, and it just kind of fell into my lap.
I love cyber. I did a 2-year stint at PepsiCo in cyber myself, Tina, and it was eye-opening. There's so much to learn, when you step into that cyberspace. The terminology is different, but I think it's important, especially as our audience is looking at different careers in tech. You can't go wrong with doing a cyber stint. And I think everyone has to really take the understanding of what does it mean to just be cyber aware. So I think it's hats off that you stepped into that space and learned.
Thank you. And when you're speaking on people wanting to learn more about IT, I think it's paramount that they not necessarily, some people are afraid to even approach or even think about IT in that realm of things. But they're using it anyway. Every day they're using it.
Every day.
Whether they're dealing with a virus on their personal laptop, their personal system, their malware, they're learning, but they don't even realize they're doing cybersecurity when they're trying to troubleshoot their own problems. So that's how I try to, relate to others by telling them and comparing what I do with what they do in their day-to-day life.
That's awesome.
Can you, for our audience that are interested in a field of GRC, can you describe what you actually do? What is your role? What are you responsible for?
So right now I am over the strategic capabilities and rollout plan for artificial intelligence for cybersecurity. That is one huge project that I actually manage. So I'm technically, in layman's terms, I'm a program manager. So I manage the vulnerabilities, how we can actually, vulnerabilities, I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence, but you never can not have a vulnerability. It's always going to be a threat. So how we manage those, who owns those, the reporting, the benchmarks, things of that nature. That's my primary role, and how I'm assisting other organizations. I actually assist the teams that are creating new policies for the organization. So we define those, come up with cybersecurity training plans, work with the training teams. So it's from inception to completion to make sure that we are on point and we're aware of any cyber threats that may be impacting the organization.
So Tina, on that front, you talked a little bit about you start that work in AI. And I know AI is not just a buzz, but it's really ingrained in the work that we're doing now and forever. How is it changing the work that you're doing in cyber, or even from a program manager perspective? Is AI having an influence on how you execute projects?
AI is definitely having an influence on it. We are trying to utilize AI. I can't go into much detail, but it is definitely impacting organizations worldwide. I won't necessarily speak about my organization, but I do know the features and the skill sets of some of the tools that are being developed across information technology, specifically tools that can allow, they help you code faster.
Right.
They help you test. They are evolving every day. And some of the tools that we look at have emerging capabilities. They haven't been defined their skill set, but it's definitely in flight. So anytime I speak to anyone in totality, whether it be someone in technology or just in the workforce, corporate America, or even they have children, I try to tell them that it's important that they take AI into consideration. Even as from an accounting standpoint, what does AI mean for your profession? Will your job will it be impacted by artificial intelligence? Will your role still be needed? So, and those are the kinds of things I ask children that are like parents and that are sending their kids to college. Think about AI and how to utilize AI along with their major, because they are definitely, everyone is going to be impacted in one way, shape, or form.
100%. 100%. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
Since you have been in cybersecurity, what is one of the, and you don't have to answer this, but if you feel comfortable of sharing, what's one of the projects that really created a level of how important cybersecurity governance was to any organization? Like, why is this important to organizations?
Why is cybersecurity important to an organization is because, one, I'm quite sure everybody, and even including your audience, they've heard of data leaks, right? So
absolutely.
Your phone number, your information.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that anytime you opt in to a policy or agree to a policy that is aligned to associated with an organization, that your data is protected. You don't want someone to utilize your information inappropriately. I can remember one specific situation, not necessarily at my current organization, but at a previous company, someone was able to hijack the information of the CTO. They pretended to be him, had the email set up. Someone did not necessarily look at the domain of the email address, and they wound up sending him a direct deposit because he said he did not get his check. And because he was so far up the ladder, they didn't do much due diligence. They just wanted to make sure he got paid. That within itself can impact anyone. Anyone can take your information and pretend at any moment to be you. I get notifications and alerts all the time that my information is on the dark web, right? People think that the dark web is just a myth. It's not real. It's not true. In all actuality, it's real. And your information, if it's floating out there, can be purchased by anyone and they can pretend to be you in any given situation or circumstance.
So how do people protect themselves from that happening? Are there anything that you would recommend as protections that the everyday user or the everyday person in this audience can do to help protect from that identity theft?
I Google my name all the time. I Google my name to see who has me in their database.
Okay.
I will send cease and desist letters to them. And I have even worked at some point with an attorney to remove my name from those databases. Yes. Some instances, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, but I do not want my name to appear in every search. Even in social media, I make sure my name does not appear in tons of searches. So you can basically select that option when you're setting up your profile. There are different things you can do to just streamline your information. You can get a burner phone number if you don't want your phone number on every, spam calls, because your number's being sold repeatedly to any company that will purchase it. It's not foolproof. You can take all these steps, but your information, if it's public, it's still going to be leaked. That's just the nature of things. And unfortunately, it's not necessarily safe for a lot of people. I know a lot of older people are scared to share their information, but when you do that, you actually are limiting not necessarily your quality of life, but you're actually making it a little more difficult for you to navigate in a world that is so technology centric.
Just building on that, is there any one tool you'd recommend for folks to use? You said Google yourself and Google your name. Any tool you would recommend? Because not everyone can hire a lawyer, but anything that we can do every day to help block that? Or is it just as you're going into each application, check the settings?
And when you go into each application, what you do, you'll see a opt-out form. So let's just say everyone has seen those searches where you can find somebody or whatever, and I don't want my information in there. So I go and do I select, there's an option you can select that they have to remove you from that database. Some are more willing than others to do it, but at the end of the day, it can be a lengthy process, but it is well worth it, because the more instances or the more you reduce the occurrences of your information appearing, it's less people that can buy the information, and the less you're less likely to be spammed as much. Now, I know everybody hates spam calls. I know they do.
So what advice would you give to someone who wants to break into cybersecurity or the GRC today?
So that's a loaded question, right? So a lot of people that aren't in IT contact me and ask me, how do I get in IT? How can I get in cyber? Well, that's it depends on where you are in your current career, what role you want, and how much you're actually anticipating on, money. What are you anticipating on making per year if you don't have any experience? So I would always say, for people just starting out in their career and you want to break into IT, learn and read as much as you can. Be as fluid as you possibly can when speaking to others. Make sure you network. Networking is key. I actually was onboarded with HP. I was a young lady who I was close with at the time, shared my resume with others, and then I was onboarded because prior to this, I was a contractor for 3.5 years with HP. And I ran programs, rolled out new hardware. So I've served in different capacities. So networking is key, whether you're internal to the organization or external to an organization. Who you meet, I talked with you about this yesterday. As you climb, you lift. So it's imperative for me that being a professional, that anyone that wants to onboard or learn more about what I do or just information technology, period, I try to work with them to make sure they're positioned, they're put in a position to speak intelligently, to know tools, and just be able to carry on a conversation. Because at the end of the day, you never know who you're getting on the elevator with at your current company.
Exactly.
So it's all about how you present yourself.
So do you think for cybersecurity, it's one of those fields where a lot of folks don't necessarily get a 4-year college degree. They get a lot of certifications, or they've had prior skills in hacking, coding that they got from associations they're with. What's your take on, to be effective in cyber, do you need the 4-year degree, or can you just get a couple of key certifications like the CISSP and the CISSM? What's your thoughts around those two pathways?
So believe it or not, I don't have any certifications in cyber. I started out as a developer, for a number of years, then moved on to BA work, quality assurance engineer, writing code, automated testing scripts. Then I moved on to project management, program management. And then at a couple of times in my stints in my life, I've been directors of IT. So I don't have those certifications. Do I need them? Probably, but I have other certifications under my belt. My bachelor's is computer science and my master's is in business. So once you learn a little about, again, it goes back to learning a little about a lot. Once you learn the foundations of IT, you can transfer, those skills are transferable to a new role, and they're transferable into cyber. But even I have challenges to this day learning the lingo. You mentioned a second ago the different acronyms and the, learning the different types of vulnerabilities. Right. Packaging up software, rolling out patches. Right. All of those things you have to learn how to communicate. And I still struggle with that because I haven't been in the role until a year in April. But
oh, wow. Okay.
Learning as much as you can about who you're speaking to. So sometimes in meetings after the call with my SMEs, I'll have knowledge transfer sessions so they can share more information with me about what they're doing. And sometimes it's at such a granular level that I don't necessarily need to know all of that, but being equipped and armed with as much information as I possibly can handle is what sets someone up for success, regardless of what profession they're in. Learning as much as you can whenever an opportunity presents itself is key to me.
Tina, what's a cybersecurity myth that you wish people would stop believing?
I'm going to say probably for me, when I got jumped on by a whole team of people because I kept saying, when the vulnerability is remediated and it's no longer a threat. Vulnerabilities, and when I say vulnerabilities, I'm talking about a virus or malware or anything of that nature. And when I say virus, so people that don't know, think of something that makes you sick. Think of something that makes a computer sick. Well, I thought that once it's remediated, it's fixed, it's done, there's no longer a threat, nothing will happen, but it's always going to be a threat. It never gets to zero occurrences. It never does. It may be low. It may be 10, 20, instances where someone was attacked, but it'll never be zero. I had to learn that that's a huge myth because as a PM, you go in thinking you can solve the world. What is your, acceptance criteria? If we get 99%, 100%, everything is solved. That's not how you have to, you cannot maneuver or think have the same thought process when transitioning to cybersecurity. So that's a big myth. A threat is going to always be a threat.
I think the other myth is it's not going to happen to me.
It's not going to happen to me.
It is going to happen to everyone. It's not if, it's when you're impacted by a cybersecurity incident or threat or vulnerability. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree with that. What's the most rewarding part of your career or your job?
Seeing my vision come to fruition, coming up with an idea and watching it manifest into reality, expanding my footprint, just watching something that you babied and you've nursed for so long. Right. And you watch, it's like watching your proud parent, right? Like you're watching your baby people adopt it, people hold it, people want to touch it and pet it. Those things, that is what makes me really proud. And those are some of the exciting moments that I've had, just even throughout my entire career, from rolling out software to different organizations, taking software that's not necessarily meant to be utilized in a specific way, to redesign it and it be adopted and watch it being sold as a product. That is, it makes me proud.
Are you male dominant? Oh, go ahead, Fern.
No, I was just going to build on that. So with and I know there's so many proud moments, right? And when you see your baby be adopted by others, right? And then you leverage it and you know that you brought that to life, that's huge. So with 25 years of experience, Tina, what would you tell your younger self now? Because, we have a lot of our audience are early career professionals. So they're either getting out of college and getting their first opportunity, or they're maybe in their first or second role. So if you think about back towards your Scrum work, your Agile work, your cyber and PMO, what would you tell your younger self now professionally?
Probably two things. So one of the first things I mentioned, networking, how paramount it was. So growing up, we were told, you don't go to work, you don't talk to, you're not supposed to talk to anybody. That's, I think, something that probably hurt me early on, especially as a professional. And I'm going to be honest, a young Black professional, because you're in a male dominated field and you're in a field where you won't see you won't see yourself represented. The majority of the time, you'll be the only one in the room. Right. So not learning how to network earlier probably was not the best decision I could have made. But again, you're taught, growing up in certain households, you go to work, you go home. If you can't separate the two. So that was probably my biggest miss. I needed to learn how to navigate, network, socialize, and interact with my coworkers, because there's always going to be, if they're represented more than you, that representation matters. And if you want someone that can speak your name in rooms that your feet have never entered. So that is key in building those connections and those bonds. The second thing I would tell someone, and I tell my mentors now, again, reading is fundamental. Never go into a room. If I present to you a problem, I need to present to you two solutions.
I love that.
And that is paramount to me. That sets the stage for any conversation, engages the thought process. It allows for you to speak intelligently and to showcase and platform your decision-making skills. You're being able to communicate effectively, especially as a young adult entering the profession. It's more difficult for people. People may not necessarily take your advice as being the golden standard. But when you leverage and you equip yourself and arm yourself with the right information and material, you set yourself apart, and they begin to respect you and they begin to lean on you for more information and to give you the deliverables that can potentially change, chart your career, take your career to another level.
So networking and reading and learning, ongoing, continual learning. Yeah, makes sense.
So Tina, this is something that we asked the guests yesterday, because being an African-American woman in a male-dominated field, how do you get people to trust you?
Okay. That's difficult. That is something that will probably, I'm going to be honest, it'll be problematic for probably the duration of my career. It is, sadly, historically, it is not our opinions aren't necessarily valued as much as others. And I have been in situations, unfortunately, where I've even had deliverables and I would go on vacation and I would come back and my name was no longer on them. They would replace my name. That's happened several times. But they would always come to me to think the process through, to be the worker bee. So it's difficult, right? Like, how do you show your level of intelligence and your intellect to others that value it and appreciate it? It doesn't mean you have to be the loudest person in the room. I had to learn that as well, because you don't always, you need to sit back and speak, to listen to your audience, right? Knowing your audience is key. You don't necessarily have to interject when you know someone is wrong. Sometimes you handle those conversations, you praise in public and you chastise in private, or you correct in private. It has been challenging all the way around, because even in those instances, it's still not necessarily received well.
But Tina, so I'm going to put you on pause there because I'm still stuck. Let's go back. Let's rewind the tape a little bit, my sister. So when your name wasn't on the report 2 or 3 times, that's a conversation, isn't it? That you addressed that.
It's a conversation, but and I addressed it. I've addressed it several times. But when you, and it was 2 different organizations, when you're not the golden standard, if you will, for an employee in IT, if you don't look like everyone else, sometimes it's not necessarily, those conversations you have aren't necessarily received well. And in some instances, leadership did not necessarily want to even chastise or even have a conversation with the others. So then you're left to fend for yourself. And how do you do that? That's when you have to become the loudest person in the room, right? You have to make sure that you carbon copy emails. You have to make sure that you take the notes. You have to make sure that, you schedule the meetings. I've been in situations where I've done deliverables and presentations, and I look up, they're giving the presentation to someone else who was a favorite to present my work as if it was his. And that's from leadership. So then you have to have the conversation with leadership. And it does not necessarily bode well. Some leaders take it as you're attacking them. But in all actuality, you're just defending yourself and you're speaking up for yourself.
Absolutely.
But it can be...
it can be misconstrued.
It can be misconstrued. And you can be labeled as an angry Black woman. Right. So I've taken it a step further, and I've actually produced business cases to support why I'm saying this, the times it's happened. And I present it to the level up to have these conversations, because it's not a healthy environment when you're having to constantly fight for yourself. You're fighting for your own words to be heard and them to be recognized. So you have to think strategically on how you want to handle it and not act off of impulse. And sometimes that can be difficult, right? Sometimes you're just so in the moment, you just lose it. But
you get caught up in that emotion, right?
And that just comes with growing and learning and maturity.
100%.
Do you find that, like having advocates and supporters and building those relationships, does that help you to navigate professionally? Just having an advocate, having someone that knows you a little bit better. And I don't know, Fern, you tell me as well, because, I come from the entrepreneurship world. And my experience is because, I'm the co-owner. And so versus when you're in corporate, which is a totally different dynamic. Yeah. Co-owner, sitting as a co-owner, sometimes your words is the final word. But when you're in corporate and you really have this playing field that you have to operate, can you actually form relationships and advocates and supporters in the environment to help build trust? I'm just asking out of curiosity.
So from my perspective, absolutely. So, at my stint at PepsiCo, which wasn't a stint, it was 30 years, you absolutely can build advocates. I mean, and I think there is definitely a difference between an advocate and sponsor and a mentor. And those folks can help establish the trust. You were just talking about how do you build that trust, or it can help validate what you're doing, or it can help do blocking and tackling. So I think that the savviness that we would love our audience to know is it's not just about knowing the technology, right? You also have to have the soft skills, but you also have to know how to work through situations and maneuver the landscape. And it could be the culture of your organization that's different. So HP's culture could be very different from Pepsi's culture. It could be very different from an entrepreneur's culture. So part of what I hope that our audience will walk away with is, yes, know the technology cold, but also start to know the EQ, that's the IQ and the EQ of how to navigate and work in that organization to be effective.
and the politics of the environment,
all that.
understanding who is who inside the environment. Because I want to switch gears on this conversation because I want to make sure that we get to the health side of it. Tina, how stressful is your job?
It can be very stressful, especially when you are dealing with a plethora of people, plethora of personalities, and this is just not with my current position. It's been my entire career. When you're presenting to C-level executives, your C-suite, always being on point, always knowing. So I always have to think, when I do a presentation, I have to think, well, what are they going to ask me? I have to knowing your audience is key. So I have to know each person's personality to better gauge what they're going to ask me, what questions they're going to ask me, and learning how to navigate those rooms. That's key with anything. And being, you don't even have to be an executive for a person to be a mentor, if you will, within an organization. You can make an assistant is going to know the ins and outs of your executives that you're working with. They can equip you probably with more information than anybody or anywhere around you. So talking to people, regardless of their role, is paramount if you want to be set up for success anywhere you go.
So how do you manage that stress? Because I know we all handle stress differently.
Yes.
And I know that we're going to flip on to the health side of this in a second, but it can really impact your health. And I know when I have been super stressed, I can't think straight. I can't remember things. I can't sleep well. And all of that just starts to break you down and you're not at your best self. So Tina, how do you manage that stress?
So prior to, we haven't talked about it, but prior to my health scare, I worked out frequently. I was an avid, I stayed in the gym. Peloton advocate.
Peloton.
I love Peloton. I love
Peloton.
Too.
I do.
So that helped manage my stress a lot. That's honestly probably the biggest reliever I had because it was so, everything's due now. Everything's an emergency. All these fires you have to put out. Everything's a fire drill. So I had to equip myself with something that was going to be healthy, not necessarily even for the benefits of it changing how you look. It was for my mental health as well. So that was one of the things that I tried to incorporate into my lifestyle, and it wound up helping me with my health scare. Right? It did have its benefits. So,
because we're all in the IT industry, and each one of us are all sitting at the table with over 20 years of experience. And one thing that I want to make sure that I'm very clear about is that being in the IT industry, I'm coming from the entrepreneur side. I'm not going to say it can't be. It is stressful.
It is. Yeah.
I'm not going to say it can be. It is stressful. Some of the rewards that we get out of being in the IT field is we have been, I would say, blessed beyond measure.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We're able to do things, experience things that maybe some other people have not been able to experience. But on the flip side of that, the fundamental element of what keeps us going every single day is our bodies.
Yes.
And so as I, began to go through my journey of having breast cancer and being diagnosed with breast cancer, and I don't care what stage it's at, because I was at a stage 1 and it was devastating. It was completely devastating because before they tell you what stage you're at, they tell you you have breast cancer. So if you go home not knowing if this is going to be the fight of the beginning of the end. Right. You don't know what stage that you're at. And so as we began, and I, like I said, I've had a very blessed career, have just been able to be exposed to a lot of different environments, been traveled all over the world. And so as this begins, as you get diagnosed with something so devastating, it is three of us on this call, and out of the three of us, two of us sitting on the call have been diagnosed with breast cancer. So Tina, let's take a little bit of a deeper, let's turn the conversation a little bit about our health as women.
Yep.
And we'll talk about breast cancer and what have you learned about breast cancer? Because we had a pre-conversation that said there was nothing that we could do to really prevent it. But now we know what we know. And so, Tina, I want you to tell us, what have you learned through this journey? Because obviously it's impacted, how we look at things, your career.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it over to you, Tina. Share what you feel comfortable sharing about your journey in breast cancer.
So I was an independent contractor when I was initially diagnosed. So I'm the primary renter for my home. It's just me. So I didn't have the luxury or the liberty to say, oh, I'm going to take off work for this amount of time. So when I did, I wound up having what's called my main mass, which was 0.5 millimeter, and that I found myself. Unfortunately, my mammogram did not detect it. I found it myself after I finished working out on the Peloton one day.
Oh, no.
So I was a little taken aback, but because I considered myself relatively healthy, I wound up not taking probably the amount of time that I should have taken throughout my journey off work. So even with my double mastectomy, I did I think I probably took off 2 weeks. And I went back.
What? That's insane. 2 weeks.
Honestly, it was a week and a half.
Did you work from home? I mean, girl, how did you do that?
I worked from home.
Okay.
I did. I worked from home. Every surgery I've had I'm on my 16th surgery.
What?
My 16th
Shut
surgery,
up.
7th. I've just completed this morning my 196 doctor's appointment, and I go back this evening for 197. I did 6 chemotherapy treatments. Then I did I did a total of a year's treatments of targeted therapy. So technically, I'm just coming out of the therapy itself in November of 2024. Then throughout the entire process, I was doing all the surgeries.
So Tina, you said 16 surgeries all related to your breast cancer journey?
All related to my breast cancer journey.
Oh my gosh.
That's the 16 since October 2023.
What? Oh my goodness.
It has been a true journey. It has been hard, but I would always work throughout them all, because what I realized is I would have to have something a healthy distraction.
Right.
Because you don't want to sit around all day. It's easy to do. You sit around all day and you think about dying. What if my chemo doesn't work? Because you hear all the horror stories, and you pray, because I'm a praying woman. But you still, if they say faith and fear cannot coexist, but faith and fear can coexist. They're just on different ends of the spectrum. One is faith, things are going well, I'm going to be okay. Fear is sitting over here. It's the unknown. And it's the unknown that consumes you.
Right.
Because you're trusting these people who with your life, and they're literally running a factory. They're running an assembly line. Sadly, it's the truth, right? Because it's so many people that are afflicted with breast cancer or cancer period. The numbers are astronomical. Alicia, you just mentioned that, 2 of the 3 people on this call have been affected by breast cancer. Well, 1 in 8 women will have breast cancer. That's a lot of women.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So navigating that was so difficult, because you're not just navigating your physical health now, you're mentally strained. It affects you. Everything you do is impacted. Then how people treat you when you're dealing with it is another layer that affects your mental health. It's not just your friends. It's like your care staff, your care team, fighting to make sure you're going to be okay. A I love my team, my care team, but at the end of the day, they're still doctors, right? Doctors, unfortunately, think they're God. Some want to hear what you have to say, some don't. You have nurses that don't relay your messages to your doctor, to your provider. So navigating all of that can be challenging and difficult. I can give you a specific example. I was sending a message to my doctor the other day, and they just ended the chat. They just closed the thread. I couldn't close, I couldn't comment. They just closed it down. I started a new thread. I said, the fact that you just closed this thread is extremely rude and it's dismissive of my concerns. Mm-hmm. So I said, maybe I need to escalate this conversation.
Right.
And then someone called back, and I just explained to them, I said, it's not only offensive for me as someone that's a young woman, but I can only imagine what the elderly are going through. And they already don't know how to use my chart. They already don't know how to use these solutions that are, you have to have some type of technical background to use in some instances. They're 80 years old, and you're just shedding a conversation down with someone that really is just trying to get a better understanding of their diagnosis, of their medication, schedule an appointment. I said, your process, she was like, that's my process. No, your process needs to change.
Right.
So those are the kinds of things that you start trying to better understand how people think. What are they going to say? What are they going to move? Like when I just recently had a scan on my lung, and they were like, well, it's fine. And I said, no, they saw a mass. I said, so if the mass is, tell me the shape of the mass. These are things you learn to ask. Like,
right.
Is it shaped a certain way? Is it shaped? Did it change in size? You just start learning all these questions to ask, because if you don't, you're just a number on the assembly line that they'll just pass on through.
So do you have a changed belief in the healthcare system as a result of this? Or do you feel like it's really select?
Some people don't necessarily. Sadly, some people are in it for the money and not necessarily the
care.
The saving of life. But that's in any profession, right? Mm-hmm. I am blessed right now to just I love my care team. I think they've learned my personality by now, that I'm going to ask questions, right? I'm going to challenge you. That is something that I'm good at. It may not necessarily bode well with every area of my life, but that I'm challenging someone. But when it comes to my life, and that was the messaging I shared with my health team, that I need you to care just as much about me living as I do. And I need you to be transparent with me. What do these numbers mean? What does this mean? And if you want to be, when you get those reports, and some people may not understand them, what I, encourage them to do is, if you don't understand something, get you a basic account on ChatGPT, or if you want it to be personal or private, get you a chat on GPT, type in your information, type in what the doctor said or what that pathology report says, and learn what it means in layman's terms, so you can speak intelligently about your situation and your health, your where you are in terms of your health. Because the more you know, again, and you equip yourself with the more knowledge, you're able to have those difficult conversations with others, and that includes your doctors, your oncologists, your nurses, your gynecologists, because it ultimately everything is going to be interrelated into that one network.
Tina, because I know that we are running at the top of the hour, and I want to respect your time. I want to ask, what came out good out of your journey that you would like to share with the audience?
I am more in tune with my body. I am more cognizant of the things I consume. I am more aware of life as a whole. And then I wrote a children's book called Textly, Perfectly, and Wonderfully Made.
Oh, I love that.
I wanted something to hopefully turn into my pain, into my purpose, to inspire others. It can be purchased on Amazon. Just type in Textly, Perfectly, and Wonderfully Made. I wanted to inspire children that may be going through having the dreadful disease. This book is not just for children itself. It is for anyone that may have body image issues, maybe, and they're doubting themselves and they're doubting who they are. I think that's imperative. And I had to learn that myself going through this challenging time, what that meant to me. And I had to recognize and realize that even throughout it all, I'm still the same person.
Right.
The body image, the scars, the loss of the hair, the challenges mentally, those are badges of honor that have been bestowed upon me by God. They're not anything to be ashamed of. They are not anything to frown upon. So when I look at myself in the mirror, I embrace all that I am, and I encourage others to do the same.
You are beautifully and wonderfully made, Tina.
Yes.
And we all have imperfections. And so just know that you are gorgeous from the inside out. And thank you for creating the book as well. And I know that is a wonderful way to pour into your passion in different ways. So I think that's awesome.
Thank you very much. And thank you for having me. I am honored to come here and share my story.
So we have a lightning round that we do at the end. And it's just like a fun way to kind of close it out and learn a couple of different things about you.
Okay.
It's just 5 questions. Just let me, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? What are you thinking?
Okay.
Okay. Balloons or flowers?
Flowers.
Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
Audiobook or hardcover?
Audio.
Minivan or SUV?
SUV.
Beer, wine, or sangria, or all, or none?
Sangria.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us. We enjoyed getting to know you and your book, as well as your journey and your wonderful technology career. And you've given us some great golden nuggets that we can drop in for our audience so they can learn more about cybersecurity and how to be the strong link of their own data and their own protection. And I love some of the tips you gave about type your name in and see what pops up. And what do you need to block and fix? So thank you so much for joining. Turn it over to you, Alicia.
Tina, my favorite quote that you said today is, as you climb, lift. That is what Fern and I also firmly believe as we are pouring into the next generation. And so thank you so much for being our guest. We want to tell our guests, please make sure you get the book, text me. I got mine because we want to be a supporter of her endeavors. It's so enlightening to see that you have turned your pain into purpose. So we love it, love it, love it. So thank you for sharing your story and basically allowing our audience to be a part of your journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina. Thank you for joining us today. Listen, like, subscribe at To The Chicks Podcast.
Remember, stay curious, stay bold, and always stay lit.
Woo-woo.